you very much.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Ben, over to you.
Thank you both. And the two Boeing Stearman cadets turn downwind the rather larger Boeing aeroplane B-17 Sally B gets airborne to go into position for its display, to be followed by the P-47, which is going to be joining up with it in formation. And we are also going to be getting 6 of the 7 RV-8s of Team Raven out to their home bases. Once we've recovered the 2 Stearmans of Aero Super Battings. Dave Barrell and Mike Denty, the pilots, and as they clear the grass runway, Sally B in its 50th anniversary display season, and here it comes, in from the right with its escort fighter, the Republic P-47D Thunderbolt. World was not destined to stay on these shores. The idea was that it would be sold on to a new owner in the United States. But so popular did it prove at displays around the UK that that decision was soon changed. Very rapidly, this B-17 became a fixture on the British air display circuit. Its operation at that point was headed up by a man by the name of Ted White, who was one of those who brought the aircraft to Britain. When you see Sally B flying nowadays, you'll note that one of its 4-engine cowlings is different from the others. It's painted with a yellow and black checkerboard motif. Those were the colours that Ted White had on the nose of his own North American Harvard. That was sadly in 1982 the aeroplane in which, in a flying accident, he was to lose his life. It left the whole of the team operating Sally B, including Ted's partner Ellie Salifo, understandably devastated. Ellie, after whose surname the aircraft had been named, Sally B, was, as ever, not to give up. She decided to carry on operating the B-17, and she has remained its operator ever since. And this season, we mark 50 incredible years for this aeroplane on our display circuit, not just flying at air shows, but also giving memorial flypaths at countless events. And it does so because of Ellie and her team's desire to continue operating this aircraft for as long as possible as a memorial to those who flew these aeroplanes, and indeed to all of those American airmen, thousands upon thousands of them, who died on operations in the European theatre during World War II. But keeping an aircraft like this airworthy in private hands, because this is a privately owned aeroplane, it receives no official support, is a very expensive and very taxing business. Somehow it's kept on flying, and somehow we enjoy it to this day. course, been the star of many productions on the big and small screens, most famously 35 years ago now, appearing in the David Putnam adaptation of William Wyler's famous wartime documentary Memphis Belle, along with several other B-17s that were gathered here at Duxford. Of them all, Sally B was very much the lead ship, the one that flew far more often than any other in the film, and played so many other B-17s as well. And it still wears the Memphis Belle nose art on one side of the nose, Sally B on the other, as a recognition both of that film and of that most famous B-17 which was stationed not far from here in wartime at Bassingbourn. And this aircraft, as time goes on, really seems to fulfill an ever more important commemorative role, especially with the passing of so many of the Second World War veterans whose presence we used to enjoy here at Duxford on quite a regular basis. And it's now the only flying B-17 left in Europe, and one of a very small handful in the world. The final fly past coming up with smoke on two engines to represent engines out on a damaged B-17 returning to base. It's always dedicated to the members of the Sally B Supporters Club, whose contributions help keep this aircraft flying. But in this 50th anniversary season, we use it also to pay special tribute to Ellie Sallingboe, the operator of this aeroplane, without whom this aircraft would have gone long ago. She has behind her a fantastic and highly experienced team of volunteers who we also thank. Escort fighters of the 8th Air Force that accompanied the bombers on their raids over Europe, and today that honour fell to this, the P-47D Thunderbolt. As it has on many occasions down the years, including when this aeroplane was first operated from Duxford from 1986 onwards by a Fighter Collection, who painted it as a Duxford-based P-47 of the 78 Fighter Group named No Guts, No Glory. It was then sold to the US in the mid-2000s, but in 2018 it's been back here in the ownership of Fighter Aviation Engineering. And it's now painted as a 9th Air Force P-47 of the 492nd Fighter Squadron, stationed at Ibsley in the New Forest in Hampshire shortly after the D-Day period in 1944. Recalling that it wasn't just the 8th Air Force that was stationed in Britain further west. The 8th had been stationed mainly in East Anglia. The 9th Air Force located at bases further west in England. Its main role being to provide support for ground troops. Underneath it, Sally B comes into land, over the threshold. Captained today by Dutchman Peter Kuipers, always such fantastic exponents of multi-engine historic aeroplanes. And his first display weekend as co-pilot on the B-17 is that great warbird pilot who we're more used to seeing in fighters like the P-47, Pete Kinsey, who's joined the team for this year. The P-47, alongside the North American P-51 Mustang and the Lockheed P-38 Lightning, one of the great US Army Air Forces fighters in the European theatre of World War II, and very important elsewhere, as well. It's a very big aeroplane. It weighs about 7 tons. There are certain multi-engine types which are lighter than that. But it's in no way an ill-handling aeroplane, quite the reverse. Everyone I've ever spoken to who's flown this or other P-47s says this is an aeroplane that handles beautifully. Perhaps not a great close-in dogfighter, but a really good, stable gun platform. It scored a lot of air-to-air kills, but it was also very important in the air-to-ground role, both in the lead-up to and after D-Day, especially. And this was the aircraft type with which the 78 Fighter Group was stationed here initially at Duxford, later transitioning to the P-51 Mustang. More than 15,600 P-47s were built. It was the most numerous American fighter of all during World War II, but it's a very important part of our own flying heritage here in the UK as well. The RAF flew them in Southeast Asia. And these aircraft were stationed in huge numbers in the UK with both the 8th and 9th Air Forces. Thanks to its air-to-ground role, even after the P-51 Mustang came into widespread service with the American Fighter Group stationed in the UK, there was still a major role for the very rough, very tough, I should say, very rugged, very dependable P-47. The Stomp formation team with those 4 lovely little Stomp biplanes getting airborne off the grass.